Tonight on Reporting Scotland, anxious workers at BiFab wait for news as talks continue in a bid to save the engineering firm from collapse. An independent review is ordered by the Health Secretary into St John's Hospital in Livingston amid concerns about A&E waiting times practices. The Hearts Stadium saga goes on. Tynecastle has failed to pass a safety inspection. The family of a Sikh man say he's still being held by police in India despite a court ruling that he should be moved to prison. And Scotland prepare to face the might of the All Blacks at Murrayfield. Good evening. Talks are continuing this evening to try to save the troubled engineering firm BiFab. The jobs of 1,400 workers in Fife and the Western Isles still hang in the balance. BiFab warned last week that it was in danger of going into administration after a dispute with a contractor over payments. Here's our business correspondent, David Henderson.
A lonely vigil round the fire at one of the BiFab yards in Fife as workers await an outcome of talks on its future. It's been a testing time for staff here too. At the Arnish yard in Lewis, the workforce held a tense meeting this morning. With no promise of paid work in future, they vowed to work on and imposed a blockade. That means nothing and no one could enter without their permission.
The workers have passed a resolution in line with the workers in Fife, where they have decided that they will work as normal in a work-in. They have also decided that the situation being that nothing will come in the yard, nothing will go out the yard without the permission of a Joint Shop Stewards Committee.
It's been almost a week since BiFab's financial woes came to light. The company has lots of orders on its books. Engineering work for big energy schemes like the Beatrice offshore wind farm. But it's been locked in a crippling dispute with a customer, the Dutch firm Seaway Heavy Lifting, who are also involved in the Beatrice field. The workforce, with their jobs on the line, want this resolved, and throughout the day, the Scottish Government has been talking to those key stakeholders to try to break the deadlock. Tonight, there's been some progress, we're told, but no deal has yet been done. So a company with more than 1,000 workers at the heart of the government's plan to make renewable energy deliver jobs for Scotland still hangs in the balance. David Henderson, Reporting Scotland.
An increase in the time it takes ambulance crews to turn around 999 calls is putting patient safety at risk. That's according to the Unite Union. The BBC has obtained results of an internal survey suggesting that morale among ambulance staff is low and many have considered leaving because of pressure at work. Here's our health and social care correspondent, Shelley Joffrey.
Dashing to another emergency. It used to take 54 minutes in urban areas from receiving a 999 call to being ready to take another. In 3 years, that's risen to 1 hour and 30 minutes.
We have 7 stations in Glasgow that are taking patients to 2 locations as opposed to the 4 or 5 locations we previously had. And unfortunately, the casualties at many times are unable to cope with the demand that's placed upon them with the centralisation and the removal of the other 3 casualty departments.
With fewer casualty departments, the union says there are often bottlenecks dropping patients off. And when that takes longer, it means there are fewer ambulances available to take 999 calls, which they worry ultimately is putting patient safety at risk.
It is an issue for us, the fact that if we have crews tied up at hospital for extended period of time, then they're not available for the next 999 call, and that then puts other stresses on other crews in the system. So we are aware of that, and our hospital partners and health board partners are aware of that as well, and they're working with us quite closely to try and see what we can do to try and improve matters.
An internal staff survey obtained by the BBC found 85% of those who responded said morale was low. More than half said their health was affected by pressure at work, and 27% had considered leaving. One paramedic who wants to remain anonymous told the BBC,
"I've been with the service for more than 20 years and this is the worst it's been. The job itself is as stressful now as it was when I first started, but it's the additional strain that's making me rethink my career. staff shortages, concerns being consistently ignored, a culture of bullying.
The ambulance service says the survey results are being reviewed and it takes the health and well-being of staff very seriously. Shelley Joffrey reporting, Scotland, Glasgow.
There's another health story breaking tonight. The Health Secretary, Shona Robison, has ordered an independent review into what she's described as serious allegations by a whistleblower about St John's Hospital in Livingston. Our health and social care correspondent, Shelley Joffrey, joins me now. What more do we know about these allegations?
Well, these were made by an anonymous whistleblower by an email that went direct to the Health Secretary last month. Shona Robson immediately ordered an internal review, which has just reported back, and it has found that there were some substance to the allegations. So the Scottish Government sets performance targets for hospital treatment that all health boards are supposed to meet. And in A&E, it means that all patients, 95% of patients should be seen within 4 hours. Now, NHS Lothian says in its initial review at St John's, it's found staff in the emergency department felt pressured to achieve this 4-hour target, and the number of patients waiting longer than that, they say, was understated in their performance reports. Now, this was done, they say, with the best intentions.
What's the context of all this? I mean, can we be sure that other hospitals haven't had recourse to the same sort of thing?
Well, that is the big question, and these are certainly the only allegations so far that have come to light. The Health Secretary has asked Professor Derek Bell to investigate. He'll report back in the new year, but only on these specific allegations. He hasn't been asked to look more broadly. Earlier this week, Professor Sir Harry Burns, in his review of targets, was critical, saying that doctors and nurses were finding the culture of getting patients out the door pretty demoralising. But he did think the A&E target was useful and that it should be retained.
Thanks very much, Shelley Joffrey. The suspended SNP MSP Mark MacDonald says he'll cooperate fully with any investigation into his actions. The former Children's Minister resigned his cabinet post 2 weeks ago after admitting inappropriate behaviour towards women. He was suspended from the party yesterday after new information emerged. Rebecca Curran reports from his Aberdeen Donside constituency.
Mark MacDonald's constituency office was open today, but there was no sign of the former Scottish Government minister. He's been suspended by the SNP after new information about his conduct emerged.
I had apologised profusely.
Yesterday, before his suspension, he said he intended to stay on at Holyrood.
Behaved, and I believe people should, be given a chance to change. I've asked for that chance, and I hope my constituents will give me that chance, and they'll have the opportunity at the next election to decide whether or not they, want to give me that chance.
So do people living in his Aberdeen Donside constituency think he should remain as an MSP? Their problem is there's so far been no proper explanation as to the nature of the new information that led to Mark MacDonald's suspension.
I don't think he should. I think he should just resign and have another election.
He's apologised for asking he do. He likes his job, he's good at his job apparently.
He shouldn't be there because until he's proved that he's innocent. It's not a good example to set.
Everybody makes mistakes, so I kind of see why he shouldn't carry on. He's doing a good job.
Mark MacDonald, Scottish National Party.
Mr MacDonald was first elected as MSP for Aberdeen Donside in 2013. He was seen by some as a rising star. He resigned as Minister for Childcare and Early Years almost 2 weeks ago after admitting a separate incident of inappropriate behaviour. Mark MacDonald previously asked his constituents to give him a chance to change. He says he stands ready to fully cooperate with any investigation into the matter. Rebecca Curran reporting, Scotland, Aberdeen.
Well, let's cross now to Holyrood and join our political correspondent Andrew Kerr. Andrew, where does this go from here?
Well, Sally, Rebecca was talking at the end of her report about Mr MacDonald cooperating with any investigation, and due process of course has to take place. But given that Mr MacDonald set that precedent of resigning as a Scottish Government minister because of his behaviour, would he be allowed back into the parliamentary group and the SNP after any investigation has been completed? Some SNP MSPs might have some very strong views on that. On the positive side for Nicola Sturgeon, as party leader. She looks to have acted decisively in suspending him. Perhaps, though, on the negative side, why was he not suspended back on November the 4th when he resigned as a Scottish Government Minister?
Of course, we saw another suspension this week at Holyrood. Labour's Alex Rowley. Difficult time for Labour, but by tomorrow they're going to have another leader.
Yes, that's right, Sally. A turbulent time for Labour here at Holyrood this week, and a tumultuous leadership contest finally ends tomorrow after running since August. So the new leader will have to deal with the Alex Rowley situation. Mr. Rowley stepped aside as interim leader of Scottish Labour over allegations about his conduct, claims which, of course, he denies. So the new leader will have to deal with that. But more fundamentally, the new leader will have to try to make Labour appeal to voters once again. Given the current political situation, given the current political climate here in Scotland, that's a pretty tall order. We'll find out who the new leader is tomorrow morning at 11. Sally.
Andrew Kerr, thank you very much. Hearts owner Anne Budge says there's no guarantee their match against Partick Thistle will go ahead on Sunday after Tynecastle Stadium failed a safety inspection today. But she's optimistic the stadium will pass one final inspection tomorrow at noon. That would allow the Edinburgh club to return home for the first time since July. More from our sports reporter David Curry.
The redevelopment of Tynecastle is over budget and it's overrunning, the cost rising from £12 million to now more than £14 million. And the stadium had been due to reopen for business in September. That deadline was missed, and now it's all about getting the stadium in a fit state to host Sunday's match. Building work will continue overnight, as it has done throughout the week, to meet safety criteria. It failed to meet those today, prompting Edinburgh City Council to issue this statement. Public safety is quite rightly our primary concern, as it is for Hearts, and the council is doing all it can to help the club reopen Tynecastle in time for Sunday's match. A further inspection is planned for tomorrow lunchtime. Players and staff are preparing for the match as usual. Well, as usual as possible.
The feeling is slight feeling of frustration now that it's not ready at this minute in time, but I'm hopeful it'll be ready for Sunday. But there's an overwhelming feeling of sort of pride and the satisfaction that we've managed to get the building up.
We are professionals, we are paid to do a job and prepared either way if the game be on or game being off, but it's for the families and people travelling to games. They've already probably changed their whole weekend round this. People, especially fans travelling to Capital, I know they change their weekend maybe for a day out or see family through in Edinburgh, so it's desperate for the fans that the game's on as well.
Our cameras haven't been allowed inside the stadium while work goes on. But even from the outside, it's clear there's still much to be done before tomorrow's inspection. Hearts owner Anne Budge is optimistic, but cautiously so, about whether the match will go ahead. She says, "I cannot at this time definitively say yes, but I can say that every indication points to the game going ahead. However, no guarantees. If the match doesn't go ahead, it's guaranteed questions will be asked by supporters of both clubs and the Scottish Professional Football League." David Curry, reporting Scotland, Tynecastle.
You're watching BBC Reporting Scotland. It's just after 18 minutes to 7. A reminder of tonight's top story. Anxious workers at BiFab wait for news as talks continue in a bid to save the engineering firm from collapse. And still to come, Scotland prepare to face the might of the All Blacks at Murrayfield. The UK government must reach an agreement with Scottish ministers on key Brexit legislation. That's according to the cross-party Brexit Committee at Westminster. Prime Minister Theresa May was warned that there needs to be progress soon on the Brexit bill if talks are to move on a future trade deal. Well, let's get the latest now from our political correspondent Nick Eardley at Westminster. Nick.
Sally, internationally, the UK government is desperate to move on to the next stage of Brexit talks on future trade. The EU isn't there yet, and the clock is ticking towards the next European Council meeting in December. If there's no agreement by then, the whole timetable is thrown into question. And there's pressure domestically too. This report today from the Brexit Committee says that it's essential that the UK and Scottish governments come to some sort of agreement on the key piece of Brexit legislation, the withdrawal bill. and the committee is suggesting the UK government may have to change the bill to end the standoff over where powers go when they return from Brussels after Brexit. This afternoon we spoke to the committee's chair, Hilary Benn.
We identified previously as a committee that there was a lack of trust. Talking is a good way of building trust, and we've also recommended today that on this question of how the powers are devolved to Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, the government should aim to reach an agreement with the devolved governments about how that's going to work, because the powers are coming back on agriculture, environment, in the case of Scotland, justice, when we leave the European Union.
Now, the UK government says it's in listening mode on this bill and it's moving through Parliament slowly. We won't see detailed scrutiny of the devolution aspects until next month now. But again, there's been no breakthrough. UK government sources are confident talks are moving in the right direction. Scottish government sources say they still have real concerns and still aren't backing the bill. So internationally, there's pressure for some sort of compromise to move on talks with Europe. Domestically, there's pressure for compromise to move talks on with the devolved governments, and the clock continues to tick.
Nick Eardley, thank you very much. The family of a Scottish Sikh man say he's still in police custody in India this evening, despite a court ruling that he should be moved to prison. Jagtar Singh Johal from Dumbarton says he's been tortured by police in the North Indian state of Punjab. He's accused of helping finance the murders of prominent Hindu leaders. Katie Hunter reports.
For the second time this week, Jagtar Singh Johal was ushered into court by armed police. The 30-year-old from Dumbarton says he's been tortured during his time in custody. This morning, a court ruled he should be moved to prison, but his lawyer claims he's still being held by police. His brother says the pressure is showing.
From the pictures that we've seen, it's not what he is. He's gagged. On the two pictures, on the last court appearance, he was gagged. On this one, he's got a handkerchief again over his... That's not him.
Jagtar Singh Johal went to India last month to get married. 2 weeks after this picture was taken, the Sikh activist was arrested in connection with financing weapons used to kill Hindu leaders. This morning, his father-in-law told reporters outside court the 30-year-old had suffered a grave injustice. Back in Glasgow, the Scottish Sikh community, among others, has been highlighting Mr Johal's case. But they know there's a limit to what they can do.
I guess it's a feeling of being entirely helpless, seeing that his face is being covered with the look in his eyes, the number of police officers he's being flanked by, the fact that he actually hasn't been charged with anything, the allegations of torture. It's just the feeling of helplessness and just being quite sad, really, to be honest.
The Foreign Office says its consular staff have met Mr Johal and confirmed he has access to a lawyer. But there's uncertainty this evening about where he's being held and what will happen next. Katie Hunter, reporting Scotland.
A retired businessman has avoided extradition to the United Arab Emirates because of a risk he'd be tortured or subjected to inhumane treatment. Gary Black faced 12 months in prison for a breach of trust following a dispute with his former son-in-law. But a sheriff ruled he could not go back because of a risk of being denied his human rights.
Witnessed the way people were treated over there, and my ex-son-in-law made no secret of the fact what he would do to me when he got me back there. So I have absolutely no doubt that I would have been tortured in the UAE, without any shadow of any doubt.
Scientists are linking climate change to a huge drop in one of the major food sources for Scotland's seabirds. The team, including Edinburgh-based researchers, have been studying colonies in the Firth of Forth for more than 3 decades by looking at what the birds throw up. Here's our science correspondent, Kenneth MacDonald.
The common European shag. Will climate change make them less common? For 3 decades, scientists from the Centre for Ecology and Hydrology in Edinburgh have been looking at what the birds eat.
And how did they find out what was in the birds' stomachs? They examined their vomit. Basically, we're talking about 30 years' worth of shag sake.
Every year we visit the nests to ring the chicks and study what's happening, and occasionally shags regurgitate their last meal as an anti-predator defence. We collect that then with a spoon and put it in a bag and take it back to the lab for analysis. We take the shag vomit, we mix it with biological washing powder, the same that you would use for your clothes, and put it in the oven. After 4 or 5 hours, we're left with nothing but bones.
It's all about trying to find as many sand eels as they can.
The research has just been published and unveiled here at an event at Dynamic Earth in Edinburgh. The vomit, collected on the Isle of May, has shown that as the North Sea has got warmer, the birds' diets have changed.
The diversity of shag diet has increased massively. Shags have changed from eating almost nothing but sand eel to a range of prey types in recent years, and we found that that's driven by ocean warming. Shags find most of their food at the bottom of the sea, whereas lots of other seabirds feed at the ocean surface. Shags can diversify their diet in response to reduced sand eel availability, but other seabirds may not be so lucky.
It's just one area of research on show at the event. It's called Unearthed, it's free, and it runs until Monday.
If you like a volcano, puffins, some climate change, the most amazing supercomputer where you can come and predict the weather from our colleagues at the University of Edinburgh. A whole range of science, all related to the Earth and all related to all our lives.
It's science that's helping us see the future for seabirds and the rest of us. What the research into shags suggests is that for Scotland's seabirds, climate change is going to create winners and losers, and so far it's the shags who are the winners. Kenneth MacDonald, reporting Scotland, Edinburgh.
Scotland will take on an impressive All Blacks tomorrow at Murrayfield, full of world-class players. That's the assessment from Scotland coach Mike Blair. The All Blacks have been ingratiating themselves with some of the locals in Edinburgh today. On the pitch tomorrow, they'll be looking to keep up their good form against the Scots. Here's more from Jane Lewis.
Nice.
Rugby tips from the best in the world. A lucky few taking advantage of the All Blacks being in town.
Super tight. Big merger. Yeah.
With some words of encouragement from the New Zealand captain.
Well, fresh from that training session, the New Zealand players are being put through their own paces themselves here at Murrayfield ahead of tomorrow's test. They'll be hoping to continue their impressive record against Scotland in meetings between the sides spanning 112 years. The All Blacks have never been beaten.
Oh, this is a great ground to play at. I've got fond memories here, mate. My debut test was here, first time in All Black jersey, so yeah, really love this ground and the people and the atmosphere as well. I love getting piped into the ground and the whole thing. Yeah, it's been a great week so far. Certainly a lot of friendly faces around, but certainly I know it'll be a different story tomorrow.
Scotland came close to an elusive win over the All Blacks the last time the sides met.
Tommy Seymour intercepting again, scoring again, and Scotland are level.
But the tourists celebrated a 24-16 victory. It wasn't the strongest All Blacks team on show that day 3 years ago, and this Scotland squad are expecting a tougher test.
Yeah, they look pretty impressive, don't they? Right across the board, they've got world-class players, and if we give them time and quick ball and let them run through their patterns and phases, it'll be a long day. But you know, we've had a lot of work this week. After that Samoa game, trying to tweak a few things, attack and defensively.
While Scotland have been busy tweaking, the All Blacks have also been practising some skills of their own, although that move might not feature tomorrow. Jane Lewis, reporting Scotland.
Tonight is Children in Need night, need I tell you, and Jackie is not so very far away with some young friends.
Well, Sally, meet the stars of our show tonight, our Scottish Children in Need Choir, who are preparing for their big performance as part of a UK-wide sing-along. I hope you can join us on BBC One Scotland from 7:30 to see all of the Children in Need action. We'll be showing you how your donations make a real difference. We've also got the One Show's Rickshaw Challenge team. They'll be ending their 500-mile ride to the Clyde right here at BBC One Scotland in the teeth of a gale, all for a great cause. Causer, please be kind to us on the weather front. So tune in from 7:30 tonight on BBC One Scotland.
Dreams really do come true.
Oh, Jackie, not very keen on being sent outside tonight. How's she going to fare?
Sally, it's going to be cold and there will be showers. So even with Pudsey on my side here, I'm afraid it will be dodging the showers for this evening. Good evening to you all. So yes, some showers continuing, I'm afraid, but there will be some clear spells in the mix and it will be quite cold as we head into the evening too. But there were some rainbows around across the country. This particularly vibrant one sent in from one of our weather watchers in Malig in the Highlands. For the rest of this evening and tonight then, further blustery showers, I'm afraid, but some clear spells in the mix as well. And the wind direction becomes more of a northwesterly as we head through the night. So we're drawing in that colder air. So it means some of these showers, especially in the north, are likely to become quite wintry up over the hills. It remains windy as well, especially for the Northern Isles. So for the rest of this evening, there will be showers around, mostly concentrated towards the west, towards the north. They will become a bit more frequent and again wintry. And for Shetland, we may even see some wet snow, some sleet to lower levels as well. And here the winds could gust up to severe gale force. So it will be a cold night too, where we have any clearer skies. Temperatures in towns and cities around 2 or 3 Celsius, but for rural areas dipping down to freezing, maybe down to -1 or -2 degrees. So a chilly start to the weekend. There will be a fair few showers to start, but it's an improving day. We'll see more in the way of drier, brighter weather, some spells of sunshine around as well, especially for more central, southern and eastern areas. So if you're heading out around 3 o'clock, perhaps more fundraising activities during the day, well, largely dry conditions for the south, across the central belt, some sunshine around. Those showers mainly are concentrated across the far north and for the Northern Isles, but they still could be heavy at times. Again, wintry, maybe the odd rumble of thunder, maybe some hail mixed in, and feeling cold in the wind. So if you're heading to any hills and mountains, you're brave, certainly, because there will be some heavy snow showers. For the Cairngorms, there could be gusts reaching storm force, maybe 75-mile-per-hour gusts, maybe even some blowing blizzard conditions, temporarily conditions across the Cairngorms. But further towards the southern ranges, more in the way of sunny spells by the afternoon. But it will be windy, severe wind chill across all the ranges tomorrow. Across the Northwest Highlands, there may be some snow showers as well, but conditions improving by the afternoon with more in the way of sunny spells, but still windy across all the ranges. For the evening then, dry conditions for many. Those showers continue across the far north, the northeast, but it will be a cold night for tomorrow night, for Saturday night, a widespread frost. And it means for Sunday, it starts off chilly. There will be a lot of dry weather around during the course of the day, but we're keeping an eye on this area of low pressure. Still some uncertainty, but we'll bring some cloud and some heavy rain later in the day. And that's your forecast for now.
Now, a reminder of tonight's main news. The Brexit Secretary David Davis says the UK's made compromises in the Brexit negotiations and hasn't seen the same level of compromise back. But at a summit of EU leaders in Sweden, the President of the EU Council, Donald Tusk, has insisted the UK has much more work to do if talks on trade are to start next month. Talks are continuing this evening to try to save the troubled engineering firm BiFab. The jobs of 1,400 workers in Fife and the Western Isles still hang in the balance. And that's Reporting Scotland. I'll be back with a late bulletin just after the 10 o'clock news. Until then, have a good evening. Bye-bye.